Welcome back to another episode of Outwitting Statistics in Search of a Better Business. I am joined today by Dominick Montgomery. I've known this guy for several years now, and he's always got his fingers into something really cool, so I'm super excited to have him on. This is the first time I've interacted with him in about a year and a half, and so I'm sure he's got a lot of things to catch us up on. The last time we talked, he was crushing it at programmatic marketing. I know he's done some SEO and some other things. But I'm going to turn it over to him and let him give a little introduction, and then we'll jump into the questions.
Yeah, man, it's so good to talk to you. And I think it has been about a year, maybe a year and a half since we last talked. And we were heavily into the programmatic world. We stepped into that space because, I've had the Montgomery Group, which is our core agency, for just shy of 10 years now. And we've always tried to innovate. And I think innovation comes from, it's like the Shark Tank approach, see a problem, point out a problem, figure out the solution, and run with it. So, being in marketing, we're also in a lot of the same rooms with like traditional marketers. And when I say traditional, I mean like print media, television, commercials, that sort of thing. And we would be like the digital arm to a lot of these traditional marketing shops. So I got to see a lot of like their reporting and a lot of inconsistencies in a lot of the traditional reporting, which I think, industry wide people are starting to recognize now. But I would see just the reporting would show a number of impressions, hey, we showed your ad to this many people. Congratulations. But they didn't have any other metrics behind it. So I set out on a mission to kind of figure out how I could work in this traditional world, but provide better reporting, right? I wanted to be able to show people exactly who's watching your ads or what programming your ads are showing on and what demographic is within that programming and how can we change it and shift it on a dime opposed to running for 30 or 60 days, creating a new spot, running for 30, just this cycle of failures, if you will. But so we jumped into right. So we jumped into programmatic because that was a way of solving that issue. We were able to throw the same commercial spots on Hulu and FX and, Amazon Fire and Apple TV and all these, places that people were anyways, opposed to traditional. And it gave me that reporting, which kind of took us up a lot, notched us up a lot of tiers when it comes to marketing. And then, and since we talked, I think I had a little inkling of a concept of renting data, like renting audience data, and being a broker to rent out this data. So the company that we started 2 years ago is called Audience Rent, and Audience Rent now is, I'd say, is a sister company to the Montgomery Group. But we've got 3 co-founders. We've got a team working for us. We've got several funding offers on the table. So it's an interesting world to be in now because I've never been in the funding world or the startup world. It's always just been kind of bootstrap, kind of stay up till 2 a.m. and try to make something happen. And now we're learning about, data rooms and first rounds and seed rounds and, the investment world that I thought was, elusive, but it's an actuality. Like it can be an actuality to any startup if they are, I wouldn't say passionate, but if they actually do the work and, build something worthwhile. So that's where we are now. We're building and growing Audience Rent. And we still retain, 70 plus clients on the Montgomery Group side, over 36 states, and thinking about some international moves there too. So a lot going on, man.
So with the Montgomery Group, the core focus is around the programmatic marketing. You serve clients that range from how big are they? What kind of customers?
Yep. So if you don't mind, I'll just run it back. When we first started, we were doing marketing for law firms, believe it or not. We had several law firms. I knew the space well. I come from working with another attorney law firm shop. And again, just was able to point out some inconsistencies there that I thought I could patch and kind of streamline a process. And we did. So we started, website development, website design, logo design, your average creative agency, right? And then stepped into SEO and Google ads, Facebook ads. And once we stepped into the ad world, That's when I started looking at budgets, right? The law firm space is good as long as you can provide leads. But I say it's good because that's an industry that's used to paying a premium for a service.
Right.
And so there wasn't a necessity to like upsell or try to prove the value in what we do. They knew it. And as long as we could provide better communication, better reporting, and, make them feel like we're part of their team, we've been able to retain a lot of those. But once we got into the data world, I started looking at other industries with bigger budgets, and that led me to healthcare, obviously. And then that led me into the automotive world. I found out a lot of things about automotive. They get a lot of kickbacks for spending their marketing dollars from the actual manufacturers, sometimes up to 80 or 85%. So I found that out. I was like, well, this is a really good move for us because we have better reporting. Our stuff's prettier and our people care more because a lot of our revenue improvements are based off of being able to scale the client's business because we work off a management percentage fee. So automotive, all that good stuff. And then, we work all the way down from, we've got a small like immigration attorney here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We charge them $80 a month. We love them. They're two, older gentlemen and they care about their people. And they were paying like $1,000 to some other company. And I told them, look, man, you don't need all those services. Your name is known. And you've got a steady client base, and they only work 2 days a week. So they don't need, influx of clients. So we handle their stuff at $80. And then we've got clients, that, spend around 50 to 60,000 a month, in just ad budgets. So we range from small to big.
So you're saying you know your way around marketing in lots of different industries of different sizes and variation. Something else that I'll point out for the audience, just because I think it is a recurring theme around the people that are winning, is Dominick just mentioned that he took care of this law firm and told them what they need, and he treated them with respect, and he didn't go out and sell them something just because he could. I think there's value to that. There's always the people that make a quick buck on selling to people like that. But Dominick wins overall, I would say, because he treats people with respect and he gives them what they need. The other thing that I want to make sure that we extract as we go through here, because we got a lot of ground to cover, is that he said reporting about a dozen times, and I can't emphasize enough, regardless of what industry you're in, the more data you have available to you, the better you can run your business, the better you can make strategic decisions around what you're doing. That's a big intensive focus for our agency as well. And again, I think that's one of the reasons that Dominick's customers and him succeed, is because he's focused on those more granular, specific metrics that can help make, again, strategic strategy changes.
Yeah, I mean that's a point that I stress, every week. I feel like, but you're right. I mentioned like companies feeling like we're a part of their team, and just, I hate using the word transparency because everybody uses it and nobody's telling the truth, but trying to be as fully transparent as possible is key. It's like when we bring in if we bring in a client and have like a preliminary meeting or the first meeting, most times they're shopping around, right? They're shopping around different agencies, and in a lot of cases they're looking for the cheapest price. So for them to get a price, they have to be given one by an agency. And 9 times out of 10, when they come to me, we don't give them a price. We don't give them an estimated budget. We just don't throw those numbers out there, because our steps are, what do you want to accomplish? Okay, you want to bring in new leads. Let's role play here for a second. Craig, you want to bring in new leads for your SEO company. Cool. I think one of the best ways is to kind of test the market in ads. Like, let's run some ads, run some dynamic ads, and see if we can, garner any attention there. And then normally the question would be, how much should I spend, right? How much should I spend monthly on this? We will come back and say, I don't know. Let's look at it, right? Let's pull it up and look at it together. So we'll pull up Keyword Planner, right? Google AdWords Keyword Planner. We'll use other tools like Ahrefs or Ahrefs, whatever you say. Uber Suggest, any of these tools that give good estimations on, cost per clicks and whatnot. And we we say, hey, what keywords do you think you need to be showing up for? And we start there because, first of all, as a marketer, we always kind of think we know better, but let's start with the client and let's get some words from your industry. We start with those words and look up the search volume. And right then and there, we're able to say, yes, you're right. People are searching for this. Or actually, you wanted to show up for SEO agency, but nobody's searching for that. They're just searching for show up first in Google shop or whatever it may be, right? So we're able to do that kind of deep data dive with them and do the numbers right there. And if the numbers spit out, the average cost per click is $25, right? And then we can look at the competition and say, all right, well, they're probably spending around $5,000 or $6,000 a month, or maybe they're spending 10 or something like that. And our first start is, let's start with half of that. Start with half of what we think they're spending, because if they're a bigger competitor, we know we can't compete budget wise, so we have to get smarter. And that alone sets the tone to say, we're not going to steal your money, take your money. We're going to work with a little bit of it, figure out what works, and then scale. And then we come in with that, management fee based off of the percentage of their budget. So if they scale, then we scale. And we've taken some clients from $1,500 now to $20,000 a month and spend just on ads because we're able to scale it. But that trust factor, man, it allows you to, like, let's say, for instance, we've run for 60, 90 days and we don't see the conversions we want, or we don't see the cost per click we like. Then we can say, hey, we tried everything we know. This isn't working. Let's pivot and let's look at, maybe running this for the next 2 months. And they say, yeah, okay, great. Because what agency would ever say this isn't working? Right?
Very few of them, but I think that it's how it should be run.
Well, yeah. I mean, you put yourself in a hole. I'm not able to create a case study for our company. I'm not able to get the referrals from them, which is is the main lead source for us. All of our customers, once they hit 6 months working with us, we always make that ask, hey, are there 2 or 3 people that who own businesses that could benefit from our work? I'll give you a couple of months free if you can you set up the meeting. And for the past 2 years, man, our revenue has grown 3x and our customer base has grown 3x just from our current customers. I tried a lot of ways to advertising, and the best way is to do great work for people and let them, sing your praises.
Can't agree with that enough. And just to hit on the reporting side again, I can't speak for you, but I would assume it's similar to us. I have customers all the time say, I don't think I can compete, because you have those bigger players that are spending a lot of money. And I always grin and I'm like, you ever heard of David and Goliath? Because with superior reporting, and you would be surprised how limited a lot of these bigger shops or bigger competitors are running things. They may be spending 3 times your budget. Doesn't mean they're getting the results they need. A lot of times they're flying blind and just throwing money at the wall until something sticks. You can come in with better reporting, make strategic decisions on how you're spending on your ads or whatever, and come up and slip up behind them. And we do that all the time. So again, more information, more data, super valuable. Cool. So we kind of have an idea of what you're doing now and kind of a broad understanding that you're doing quite well, I'd say, right? Let's rewind back even further, and let's talk about why you became an entrepreneur, a little bit about who you were as a kid, if that has any correlation. Were there people in your life that helped, give you that entrepreneurial bite that you're like, I got to do it? Or because you got to be a little bit crazy to be an entrepreneur, I think, especially when the Instagram glamour kind of rubs off. So tell us about that.
I think most people step into being an entrepreneur like they would, it's like triage, right? It's like, it's all we can do. We love suffering. But I mean, just to go back, I was raised in North Carolina by my grandparents, and that was cool. 'Cause I always had somebody at home, right? And although I was raised in the hood, if you will, I was raised in the hood, North Carolina. I did have them kind of pouring into me, what others would consider kind of weird. Just like, why do that? Why not go play football? My grandma she was really into computers. She worked for General Electric, out in, Michigan for a long time, and was into tech. So there's a small computer shop in town, and we go there, and she'd go and take her Commodore 64 and get it fixed and talk to the guys there. And as she would talk to the guys, they would let me go in the back and play around with the parts. And started being, we go, 2 or 3 times a month, because my grandma would like drop off candy for him. Like, she's that old lady, and they would send me home with like boxes of computer parts that weren't being used anymore. And my grandma got me like a soldering tool, and I would just, my free time, just take apart and put together computer components and play around with the Commodore. And once the internet came about, my first glimpse of it was local, right? It was all localized. So I was able to tap into the local library, and I checked out 300 books, with their deal. And that was fun. So that was my first like hacking experience, was checking out a bunch of books I didn't really check out. But I was always into the web. I ran a bunch of internet forums, ran a big hip hop one online. And over time, I worked a lot of factory, and some stuff happened younger in life. I ended up being homeless for a few years out in North Carolina. And that got to a point where I was like, I need to make a change. I know I'm better than driving forklift like I've been doing for a couple of years. So I flew out to California, and I went to a temp agency, and I landed a job at a place. I won't say the name, but it's a $1 billion company, and they send out movie trailers, commercials to like cable networks and local networks. And they were the first company to do that online. So they would send out these spots via FTP, opposed to beta tapes or DVDs, Blu-rays, anything like that. So I started working at this company, and I loved it. Just all the innovation they were actually doing, and the pay was great, and the hours were great, and it was an office job, which I had never had. And so I worked there for a while. I figured out the industry. I figured, I was the youngest client manager there. I led the biggest department, which was direct response. So we sent out all the infomercials for the whole year, like the Jillian Michaels and all these, infomercials you've seen across the nation. And I handled 3 different offices, one in LA, one in Texas, and then one in New York.
How old were you?
I was 23. I was 22, 23.
Nice.
Yeah, so I led that. And then being in California, I got the bug. I'm a singer-songwriter, so I ended up doing some shows and landed an independent record deal. So I left that job and started doing music full-time, singing and writing. And in doing that, I ended up getting with a lot of artists out in California. And I decided, why go at the pace of the label to shoot your music videos? Why don't we just shoot our own music videos? So I started shooting videos for artists. And I quickly realized I could shoot the best video on earth, but if nobody's going to see it, it doesn't matter. The artist will think it sucks. So that led me into kind of digital marketing. Like, how do I get people to see these videos I made? Then I realized, okay, instead of paying all these other web properties to host my video, why not host it on my own property? That got me into web dev, started building out the sites and all that for the artists. And then my wife and I, we were pregnant with our third, and she's got a brother that lives out in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And there was a guy running for Senate out here. Sorry, he was running for Congress out here. And was it Congress? He ended up working for NASA. He's the head of NASA, Jim Bridenstine. He was in need of some creative help. And my brother-in-law was like, man, you should come out here and just be his videographer or be his marketer, just see what we can do with that. So I came out, and that didn't happen. However, one of Bridenstine's good friends owned a attorney marketing place. And I was offered a job right there on the spot. And I said, why not? So started working there and quickly became CTO. And then shortly after left and started the Montgomery Group. So that's kind of the condensed version of how this all started. But I think it all leads to, like, I've just always wanted better, right? I said, coming from homeless, I was sleeping in abandoned trailers, and a lot of it was just because I never felt like I could settle with what I had, and it wasn't a greed thing, but it was more so like, I know there's better in life for everyone, and we have to go get it. My grandparents taught me that my whole life. They had me in. It's funny. They had me in. I started off school in private school, so like I was the only brown kid around a whole bunch of white kids. So I learned that environment, right? It was an environment. It was a thing back in the day. Just how to kind of appeal to different, types of people. So I started off private, then went to like hood public, and then went to like Christian, and then went back to private, ended up hood public, So I guess it really shaped my personality and how to kind of interact with everyone and look at everyone as, a peer, really. And I think that's really, really helped, over the years as I mentor kids from college, or I mentor freelancers or solopreneurs. A lot of them have that kind of feeling like, yes, I did start my business, but it's just getting started. So the other person who owns a business, they're way better than me. And that's not the case. Like, if you own a business, they own a business, they just got a head start, but you're still both business owners. You should look at them as a peer, right? Because they started just like you did at some point. So I'm always preaching that. But that's kind of led to the way that we run our shop here, and, everybody's somebody, and we look at our clients the same way.
Couple of questions off everything you just shared. So You've taken an interesting winding path. It all ties together, and it's always fun to look back at how that works, because I can remember like one of our first things we tried to start was like a baby boutique online. And so that led to, well, we have to get it to show up in front of people, which led to ads and SEO. It all ties together. It's fun how that works. And something else you mentioned was the changing of schools. Do you feel like, and I'm pulling on personal experience, I moved schools several times. Do you feel like you had the opportunity with those moves to sort of reinvent yourself each time and get out of a box?
Yep, 100%. 100%. It was a rebrand every time.
I know. I don't know. I don't know what the common perspective on this is, but I think kids being able to change up their groups of people they're in frequently as children is helpful to them. Some people, I think, have promoted that it could be harmful. You're moving them away from their friends and stability and whatever. And I'm like, yes, but I've seen how people have been boxed into what they were when they started, and they don't feel they have the opportunity to branch out and change. And I did always feel there was some sort of boxing or confinement to a particular group of people I could hang out with, or how I could act or dress or whatever it was. And when I would move schools, I would change that. And I feel like I got comfortable with learning to be me and who I wanted to be instead of what everybody assigned to me. Is that something you feel?
Totally. I will say, a lot of it is systemic. In certain neighborhoods, I have to say that I grew up, where I grew up, there's a lot of systemic oppression and just trying to keep people in a certain box. For sure, that's 100% happening. But also, I think it's a personality type. I give a lot of credit to my grandma, although I hated standing around the grocery store for 2 hours. She would talk to everyone, right? She's just an open book. And I saw that every day. It would annoy me to death, but it's just inbred. It's in me. My grandfather, on the other hand, was more stoic, didn't say much, but was very, very thoughtful. And when he did speak, damn it, you listened because it was something good. So I gleaned those two things from my grandparents, and then just different cultures. At one point I'm driving. I had to ride 45, 50 minutes to school. It was that far away, but it's in a whole different culture. So I learned the culture of my direct environment. But then being able to go to these private schools, I was able to see, oh, wow, like people own boats. I didn't know that, like little things. And I think those little glimpses always attracted me, were always attractive to me. I remember going to a buddy's house. This had to be 3rd or 4th grade, man. And I walked in and I was like, well, this guy lives in the White House. Like, that's what I thought. I was like, he lives in the White House. It's got stairs and balcony. I'd never seen anything like it. And it was just a birthday party. It was probably like 45 minutes, right? We were in and out. But to this day, I think about that house. And I know in my kid brain, it was, 18 times the size I think it is. But that always stuck with me. Like, man, that's attainable, you know? And I don't know. I always try to set goals that are a little bit out of my reach, but are still attainable if I'm crazy enough to, stop one thing and pursue that fully. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Obtainable is always just a matter of perspective, though, because if you want to talk about obtainable, let's look at like Bill Gates and Elon Musk and so on and so forth. Like the things these guys do set the bar differently. And I forget the guy's name. I just heard it the other night, but the guy that broke the 4-minute mile, right? Oh. Nobody was doing that before. And it was a matter of perspective. Once it changed, once he did it, there was so many more people. So putting yourself in positions that you're surrounding yourself with people that are doing better and being able to see that those things are obtainable and even just drawing correlations. I've gotten myself into some rooms with some people that are way ahead of me, or I feel like they're way ahead of me. And then I have conversations with them. And sometimes they're like, wait, tell me more about that. And I'm like, I came to listen to you and you want to hear what I have to say. So that can have a huge shift on your mindset as well. So, yeah.
I mean, and speaking to that point, with audience rent, because audience rent it relies on working with people who have large audiences on social. It's gotten, we work with Mike Rowe, we work with NFL teams, we work with, college athletes, professional athletes. We work with politicians and all this. And you're right. Like when we talk to them, like we're presenting our offering, which is audience rent that brings in money. But then when we start talking, like, have you played around with anything like this? Do you know it? They don't know. And they have huge teams. And they're like, I didn't know this was a possibility. I don't even understand the jargon. And then on the alternative side, because audience rent is a dual-sided marketplace. So on one side, we have our audiences. On the other side, we have our advertisers who rent out those audiences. And even talking to the advertisers, like I'm not going to name their name, but one of the largest marketing companies in the States. We talked to them, we talked to the CEO. He's like, you got to talk to my team. I think this is a cool deal, but talk to my team because they're a lot more technically savvy. And we talked to them and they are nowhere near where I thought they would be as far as understanding the digital landscape and deploying ads and segmenting audiences and retargeting the right way and setting custom message. They were nowhere near it. So you're right. As you get into these rooms, and it goes back to me, like looking at most business owners as peers, it's like, we're figuring this out together. So if we can connect, we can grow this, with what I know and with what you know. And I think that's the approach freelancers are a little timid to make, right? Because they want to get that deal. And I understand that deal's important. And I will never say to somebody in their second or third year, don't lower your pricing to get the deal. Like, do it, right? It's going to be a learning experience. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just always shocked at how put together I think some shops are, and then you come to realize, man, this could fall apart if one person leaves.
Yeah, when you peel back the curtain and see what's really going on, as opposed to, like, we all try to present everything's going great, like, and I don't also promote like walking around going, woe is me, this problem, that problem. Yeah. Absolutely talk about the great things, but I have some mentors that I talk to that I thought they were like so buttoned up and put together, and then I'm sharing this problem that I have with a team, somebody on my team, and they pull me aside and they're like, I have that same problem right now. And I'm like, oh, so I'm not broken inside. Like, there's hope for me still. Like, I can still be successful. It's not me. Yeah. So I think that's another thing to think about whenever you're surrounding yourself with people. You talked a lot there for a little bit about your grandparents, and they seem to have had quite the impression on you being younger, help mold you. Is there were there any other people that you found yourself surrounding yourself with, or were inspiring to you as you were going through this journey to get here?
Yeah. No, man, great question. So, when I started, and this is again 9 or so years ago, I fell into some of the podcasts that were just starting up. Some were better than others, but I would say there were three books or authors or people that really changed my way of thinking. First was Tim Ferriss, obviously. I mean, come on, dude, he's the best.
No.
The 4-Hour Work Week really shaped how I thought about business. And to be honest, I wasn't even thinking about business. I wasn't thinking about like growing an agency. I was thinking about making a dime, like replacing my income basically from my 9 to 5. And 4-Hour Work Week really taught me structure, right? It taught me how to structure the company as I grow it and build certain portions to scale. So that was very, very helpful in my first few years. Secondly, there's a book by a guy named Blair Enns called The Win Without Pitching Manifesto. He's featured a lot with Chris Do. I'm sure you know Chris Do from the school on YouTube. Blair Enns in this book, I mean, The Win Without Pitching Manifesto, it shifted my way of thinking like the underdog, and more so, thinking like the expert on the topic. And experts are experts, and people, need our expert advice and expert. And that goes back to even like, we were talking about reporting and the research for the reporting and stuff that we do before closing a deal or going into business with another company. Even the small change of, okay, we're going to do this research, but just so you know, should we move forward, the cost for this research will be, placed into that upfront when we do business. So we get that buy-in, little stuff like that, that this book kind of taught me. One of the things is not responding to RFPs and putting yourself in the same, lane as everyone else, and since we heard that, we've not responded to RFPs, and everyone who's questioned us about RFP, we've won the business by not responding to the RFP. Like we actually call them and talk to them and treat them like humans, right? A third person actually, I have 4 people. A third person will be Will Reynolds. He's a owner of Seer Interactive, SEER, their SEO shop out of Chicago. He did a few talks maybe 12 years ago, maybe less, at MozCon that were just out of this world. And he talked about, looking at his company, his SEO company is, yes, we do SEO. Yes, we're data heavy or data nerds. And yes, we look at all that to kind of, grow a client's business. But they also focus on what he calls RCS, which is real company shit. And they make sure that they do real company shit in the midst of their SEO work, right? So that could be, connecting a company who would never be connected to the Red Cross to set up a Red Cross blood drive for people in their community, and setting up foundations for the homeless and tying their clients into this so that they get that .org link, but also they're helping they're helping out a cause, right? So I love Will. I actually got to correspond with him over email a few times, and I just love the way that he approaches marketing. So I shaped a lot of actually when we had summer interns this year, part of their first few days was watching some Will Reynolds videos, so they could kind of see what I see. And then lastly was a guy named Chris Savage. He's the owner of Wistia, which is a online video hosting solution. Their video players are awesome. They're very SEO friendly. They allow you to put calls to action right there in the video. They let you create with their videos something that looks like Netflix. So you've got these categories and catalogs and stuff. And man, when I first started, I was actually working on a little idea called Cove, COVE, which stood for collaborative online video editing. And this was going to kind of help whatever. Anyways, I was looking for people who had built companies in that space. And I reached out to him. I used like this cool automation tool that let me know every time he was tweeting live. And then it would automatically send off a tweet that I had prepared to him because I wanted to catch him online. Anyways, I caught him online and I was like, hey, let's do coffee. I'd love to bend your ear for a little while. And he actually thought I was in Cambridge. They're in Cambridge, Massachusetts. He thought I was there. So he's like, how about Thursday? This is like a Tuesday. And I'm like, yep, I'll come over on Thursday. So I bought a flight and I bought some coffee from a roaster here in Tulsa and went up there and got to sit down with him for about an hour and a half. And I literally had 10 questions. Like I think he thought I was there to pitch him on something, but I was really like, I have these walls I need to break through, and I'm not well versed in the business world. How would you do it? And we sat there and he gave us great advice. One of the best pieces of advice he gave me is, he said, as they were building out their platform, their roadmap had a lot of different delineations, right? It could go a lot of different ways. But they made a rule to where, yes, they're going to continue building this out. But the moment they got to a place where it was profitable, that's where they were going to stop and they were going to perfect that portion of their business. And I've taken that with me over the past 10 years. Anytime we make a move, whether it be on client campaigns or whether it be, just campaigns that we run or our social media presence or anything, once we find something that sticks, we stay there and perfect that before we move on to all the other fun stuff. Because, why would you leave such opportunity right there to go explore? You know what I mean? So I'd say those are the four big boys. And then the movie, The Big Short, dude. It's my favorite movie, and that movie motivates me every time I watch it. In a way, so it's kind of weird to say. It's a sad movie. Bad stuff happened to a lot of people. However, those guys who caught it, like who sunk their hook into what could be, that always, that always motivates me to always be looking for that one thing that no one else is looking for. We do that with our marketing campaigns too. I always say, what's the smallest thing we can change that has the biggest impact? And that's what we search for, daily.
It goes back to the reporting and having that data. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what they did there. I have to say that's probably the nerdiest way I've heard of somebody getting in touch with somebody, but that's a really, really cool story. You're like, I set up this little automation, no big deal. Fucking week, whenever he gets online, which got me a conversation, and then I bought a flight and was in that state the next day. Like, that's a really cool story.
Dude, so let me tell you, that tool, this was before Zapier. So that tool was called If This Then That. And that tool brought me my first customers, man. It brought me my first 5 customers that weren't law firms, because it hooked into a lot of RSS feeds across the web. And so there was this one, it hooked up to Craigslist too. So what I did was I did a search query for the top, 30 cities in America. There's Houston, Dallas, LA, New York, Atlanta. And I did a search query for SEO, right? So I typed into Craigslist, SEO under gigs, people needing help. And I would save that URL, that query, and I would put that into If This Then That. And If This Then That would ping that query, like, once or twice a minute, something like that. And every time there was a new post, it would condense, it would pretty much give me a summary of all the states combined together. And if somebody was searching for SEO help, web development help, web design help, content help, social media help. And I did that over all these cities. And then I had an automated email. So it would send me the condensed report. Here are all the classified ads or whatever. And the ones that made sense to me, I would just click it and it would send that automated email. And then I got my first 5 or so. They were all like roofing or like home contractor clients. And but yeah, so don't knock automation. All right, it worked.
No, automation's big, and something I want to jump to or pivot to in a second is you're getting ready to do a big talk about AI.
Yep.
But before we do that, there was one other key point. That philosophy of not moving on from something once it's successful, I think is important. I think, tying this back to the overall theme of this show, there's a lot of people that go out of business in the first 2 to 3, 5 years. I think part of that can be chasing that shiny object. Some of the most profitable things or things that will bring stability to your business are the most boring, or you feel like they're boring because you're like, I've already figured that out, and you're wanting to do these other things. And being able, I think as you get more successful, your threshold to say no has to increase.
Yep.
Like at first, it's take every opportunity. And you mentioned that with the people you mentor, lower your price and take that opportunity. That will have a natural course correction, because if you underbid it and you're working your tail off because you got the job and you're not making any money, next time you're not going to drop your bid.
Yeah.
Right. But I think that's an important thing to hit on there, is that jumping from shiny object to shiny object, whenever you've got something figured out, like focus and double down on the things that work.
Yeah.
That's something we do, in our ad strategy. I do in my day-to-day life. Cut the losers, double down on the winners.
Yep.
I think that's a secret to success for anybody that's listening.
Yeah, 100%. I think, and to speak further to that point, with success comes, I always say having a lot of money and, wealth or whatever, that's fun, that's fine. But the real gem in succeeding is the ability to, is having options, right? So the option to say yes or no to a customer. We, believe it or not, we said no to a $60,000 a month ad campaign, 12-month deal for a local real estate company. And I mean, they're big. It's a big name, and it would be great to have them on our roster to say, yeah, let's just say if we were to tell anybody in the state that we run their marketing, it would probably be a yes from them, to become our client. But what they were trying to accomplish was basically direct a competition with Zillow. And I just had to tell them, you're going to be better off probably using the Zillow platform and working within that, opposed to directly, combating, because they've got all sorts of dynamic campaigns set up that we don't even know about, that probably move budget into the state that's lacking budget at the time if there's a huge competitor in the space, right? And we had to say no to it. I personally know the agency that said yes to them, and that deal lasted for 3 months and wiped him out, took up all his time. He couldn't figure out what to do to make it work. And I told him, I don't think you can win on this one, in the digital world, at least. And it's not like you can take competition against Zillow offline. We had that option. We said no, and it hurt like hell to say no. And our CFO's looking at me like, are you insane? But I was like, it's not going to help us or them. But yeah, I think saying no came about after, like you said, a lot of trial and error. We first started saying no to e-commerce, because e-commerce is a beast. And if you're not like an e-com shop that's highly proficient in Shopify or, utilizing 80 different tie-ins, it's just going to become a nightmare. So that's the first thing we said no to. And now e-commerce that's high ticket. The way that we price e-commerce is high ticket, nothing under 30K to even build it out. And, that's just one thing that we had to say, that's not in our portfolio anymore. It takes up too much time. And it seems like never ending scope creep. You build out the platform, it's working, and people can pay. And then a week later, they're like, what about Apple Pay? You're like, oh, okay. And then they're like, what about, international shipping or freight shipping? And it just keeps going on and on and on. So that's one thing. And at least in our agency, we're like, we're not going to deal with that. We want to focus on strategy and, getting tied into the client's lead sources so that we know proper CPA and whatnot. I'm trying to think of another one that we've said no to. We've said no to a lot of reputation management type clients who have actually done bad things and want to clear their names. For some time, we thought, hey, what if we just, what if we did it and then we 10x the price and that'll make us feel better about it? But at the end of it, it's just that we don't do that. That wouldn't help me sleep at night. So if they've actually done something bad, been convicted of something bad, most times we say we can't help you out. I think that's pretty much always. I mean, a lot of the, as we've grown, I've found the importance of outsourcing some work, and I found joy in helping out freelancers and getting them paid. So we work with a lot of freelance photographers, freelance videographers, and drone pilots and all that stuff. Just because that's work that we could definitely do. I could go out there and do it. It's fun. But it frees up time for me to focus more on enterprise level clients and gets them paid. And so we've started saying no to a lot of those deals that include video or photography, but we'll work as the project manager to say we can find the right people to get this accomplished for you. And sometimes we take a kickback, sometimes we don't. And that's just business.
Saying no can be good.
It can be good, man. It can be good. We had a couple of clients who said no, who we said no to because of how they wanted to approach a marketing campaign, and they tried it out elsewhere, and then they came back to us. So that could definitely happen. That's not 100% of the time for sure, but saying no at least keeps you there on that peer level, and it lets you, if you see them in a restaurant, you're not going to shy away from them like, oh crap, I hope hope they don't see how I ruin, you can say, hey, how's it going? How's that campaign going? Is it working? Good. If not, told you.
Told you. Love that. Okay, so we talked about saying no and the value of that. Let's talk about saying yes, because I think that some of doing business can be based off of timing, and we have some interesting things going on in the world right now. Regardless of what industry you're in, most everybody's being touched by AI. It's almost as big an opportunity as like when the internet did first start, and there's so much going on and available in that realm. First of all, remind us, where is it you're going to speak on this AI summit?
Yeah, today I'm speaking at the University of Tulsa in a few hours. Actually, I'm speaking to their marketing cohort. Just talking to them about how ChatGPT specifically has improved and enhanced our effectiveness and efficiency. But then, the college students too. So we're going to play a game with them where ChatGPT has a password, and it's their job to prompt it to give them the password, just to kind of show them all sorts of capabilities and shape their, way of thinking around the AI tools that exist now. But like you said, man, it's major. It's changed. It's dynamically changed everything that we do at our agency, believe it or not. I think everyone thought crypto was going to be the new wave, but then AI kind of slipped in, and it is. I mean, it's a language learning model, which I think slips people's minds. I think they think it's a output tool. Like I give it something and it spits out some facts, and then I'm done with it. But this model can learn, right? And they're building out ChatGPT for business now, which will surely lead to ChatGPT for colleges, education. I was talking we had an AI panel here at this co-working facility about a month ago. And that was one of the questions I was asked, like, what about kids using ChatGPT in school and writing their essays or whatever? What should teachers do to kind of combat that? And I said, teachers should teach it. They should teach it, right? We have sports tech that helps our running back run faster and get his Achilles fixed quicker. Why don't we make, better students with tech, right? I think that's definitely the next stage. And, that's why this will be the second college I've spoken at, because I want I want to teach the younger generation, like, yeah, it's a fun tool. Yeah, it can help you come up with meal plans. Sure. And it'll help maybe, figure out your dog's diet. But also, this is a for sure way to make some extra coin. Because there will be people like the boomers now who are like, I'm not technologically savvy. It's like, how can you not be? That's embarrassing. I think it's becoming that. There's other people who are like, it's too techie, whatever. I don't deal with AI, not realizing that when they talk to Siri or Alexa, they're talking to AI. When they get, their phone autocorrects on this AI, it's been around them. And some people are like, I don't want it to take over the world or enslave me. It's like, it's just a tool. It's only as powerful as the user. But I mean, the way that it's helped me, and you're in the SEO world, it started with SEO. As soon as Google was like, we're not going to penalize any AI generated content, I was like, okay, let's get busy. And it actually it allowed me to make offerings to get business that I missed in the past. So there's one huge HVAC and plumbing shop in town, and we had spoken before, and the deal that they had with their current provider, I couldn't beat. They were doing so much for them. And I was like, it's going to take way too much manpower and cost here to be able to compete. But now, we took their website from like 25 pages to 196 in less than 30 days, all optimized with all internal linking, all submitted to index. Like, it's been, dude, it's so awesome having that tool. And I think it's only getting better with the plugins that are now being released, the way they can read the web, it can scrape the web. One quick tool that I'm using for pretty much all my clients who are in specific service areas are, like I have an Ann Arbor contract attorney. And we started with, hey, let's pull up the best videos on contract law there are, right? And the only ones that are hosted in one place. So whether it be YouTube, let's find the best one. Vimeo, let's find the best one. Let's find the best resource on wherever it is. You can dump that in ChatGPT and Chat will transcribe the whole video for you, then have it rewrite it, do your internal linking, create an index, publish it. Now you have the written content of the best video content there is. And we've seen traffic just zoom. So when we did that for them, I have a roofing company who I'm close friends with the owner. We became close friends over our years of doing business. And I said, listen, man, I want to try this out with you. I want to see what it would look like if we produced an article every day for your roofing company, right? Every day for a month. Let's see how it affects your traffic. Let's see if it affects your rankings. And let's see if it brings you leads. So we did that, 2,500 word articles every day, 30 days with compressed images, all named right. So the SEO is all intact. And in 3 weeks, he went from third page to first in 3 weeks, So I'm like, this is actually worse. So I built a case study, floated it to all my other clients. And within a month, we had like an extra 10,000 a month coming in just from doing these low cost, $500 a month here, $750 here, low cost content creations. And they know we're using Chat. I tell them we're using it. I'm saying, Google says it's not going to be penalized, so why not? So that's led us to not only, bringing in revenue, but for the law firms who are a little bit hesitant to use Chat because of the, legal ramifications, I've been able to walk them into 4 1-hour consultations where I teach them Chat and teach them how to manipulate, or not manipulate, but prompt it, manipulate the system and how it can help them to redline documents or proofread documents and stuff like that. So it's brought back a little bit of fun, like a little bit of like scary fun into our daily goings.
Well, you've been involved in SEO long enough that you've seen a lot of the evolutions that it's had, right? The keyword stuffing with white text at the bottom of the page, the mad generation of random websites for link building. Like it definitely has opened the doors on the content side of things. And it falls in line with one of the primary principles I think everybody should wrap their brain around if you want a successful business, which is how do you find leverage? And it's producing so much leverage. It's not that you wouldn't have written the same content, but you can do it at an expedited pace. You can do it with a lot less errors. You can produce it with a lot less manpower, which allows higher degree of leverage.
Yeah.
And for everybody that's out there saying, "Oh, this is too techy," I tend to think that if you will embrace the idea of how something like ChatGPT works, it has made technology so much more accessible than it was even before, because you don't have to know how to write code. You have to understand how to speak to it so it can give you the output you want. Yep. So spending some time learning how that works, you're going to get so much more leverage. And I don't think it really matters what kind of business you're in. In some way, you're probably being impacted by AI.
Yeah, I mean, everything from chat support to, even the calls you get now. If you really, really listen to their responses, if the responses sound the same, it might be AI voice, right? I was just watching
the other day. He goes, "Why does everybody keep asking me that?" I'm like, "You have kind of a monotone voice, I think." Anyway.
But yeah, I was just watching, and I'm actually showing them today at my talk, ChatGPT with their visual aspect now. They ran through a deal where you can upload images to it now, and they uploaded an image of a bike, and they said, hey, I need to change the height of my bike. Where do I start? And it said, all right, you're going to look for this, this thing or whatever on the bike. And the guy took a picture of a thing and said, is this it? And I said, no, that's not it. And they took a picture of another piece, and they said, yeah, that is it. And he goes, how do I take this apart? And they said, can you upload a picture of the front of the manual and a picture of the tools you have? And he did that, sent in a picture of the front of the manual, just the front, and then his toolbox. And it told him, based off of the manual, what tools he'd be able to use and how to do it. I mean, dude, I even saw another guy. He sent Chad a picture of, those really complicated parking signs in like New York, where it's like 4 to 8 this time, or 12 to 2 this time, or whatever. He just took a picture of those signs and sent it in and said, when can I park? And I said, you can park here from 4 to 6, because it read it and it made sense of all the info. I think little stuff like that is just there. That just shows little factors of how it just saved that guy maybe a parking ticket, right? It saved him, minutes of trying to figure out and gave him that little bit of like, okay, everything's cool. And he could go on about his day. But yeah, I've used it for my diet. I use Tim Ferriss. I use a slow carb diet, and I gave it the diet, and I said, give me a 5-week meal plan. It gave me that. I said, give me the ingredients, give me a shopping list, and I threw that into Whole Foods and got it delivered. Like, that saves hours and hours of time.
Literally down to how creative you can be in your thinking, what you can do with it.
And if you think of the visualization aspect, like, imagine taking a screenshot of your reporting dashboard, or let's say one portion of that dashboard that's maybe gone up and maybe took a slight turn, for the worse over the past week, right? You're trying to figure what's happening there. Why not give it that metric and give it your data, right? And tell it, hey, help me make sense of this. What changed? What went wrong? Here's all the data. Ask me the questions you need to know the answers to in order to help me figure this problem out. And it
that
does
right
that.
There is so powerful, what you just said. And a lot of people I see trying to do prompts skip over that. You can ask it to give you the questions it needs to get the desired outcome.
100%. So I'll give you a tip. Whenever we get a new client, we put them into chat, and we tell chat all about them, and chat asks us all about it. So we keep those saved. So anytime we need a quick thing done for a client, we can pop over to the sidebar, hop in their account, and it'll spit it out. If we need a quick Facebook post, hey, I'm making a Facebook about a fall cleaning service. Here are the dates. Here's the price. Give me the content. It spits it out, and we're done. Right. When before, that's maybe an hour and a half, 2-hour long project. And I've seen it move into WordPress. Well, so we work a lot in WordPress. We also do Webflow, but WordPress is like my sweet spot for now until it, But even now in the themes we use, I work heavily in the Divi theme, and they've incorporated AI right into it. So you can literally put up a blog post and have AI generate the featured image for you based on what your blog's talking about, instead of perusing 30 different stock, image sites trying to find the right one, or manipulating an image. You can do it right there. So I think, I'm not scared of it. I'm excited for the possibilities. What I'm scared of are people who are going to try to restrict it in places where it doesn't need to be restricted, right? Or in places where it would hinder its growth. I think definitely there do need to be some parameters set on, anything nefarious for sure. But I mean, the internet is, the internet's probably 70% bad stuff, 30% good. So let's use the tool, man. Let's make life easier.
So you kind of talked about, from a content perspective, you're using it. Are you using it in any other areas in the two companies?
Yeah, so we just did, for one of our drywall companies, they do a lot of OSHA training, and a lot of it's in person. And again, this is one of those problems that we found just because we know we're ingrained into the company. So when we have our monthly calls, or we go stop by and visit, we say, is there anything bugging you? Like, is there anything we should work on? Is there anything we should be thinking about? And one of those things was, they hire contractors to do, big jobs on site. And before they can work on the site, they have to go through this extensive training, and it has to be, in person. They have to answer these questions, and it takes so long. And if somebody gets sick, they can't proceed to the job site until they do this training. So we use Synthesia, which is a AI tool where you give it the text, and then a person talks, says the text, and you can change out the backgrounds and all that. So we provided a full OSHA training for this drywall company that has stopped the need of them having to go back and forth and see who's actually completed the training or all this. They can go right to the platform. They upload a picture of their of themselves for their card that'll get dispensed after they complete the training. They go through, and it's a total AI experience. We even had AI generate the questions based off of the transcript of the videos. So it generated these difficult questions, and they answered and go through it, and boom, done. So not only did we made a good amount building this out for them, but they're saving so many man hours, and they're saving saving themselves from the possibility of someone being on the work site who hasn't gone through all the training. So that's one small little case of other ways we've used it. I'm trying to think. I direct and produce a podcast called And Whiskey, and this guy John Buchanan, he's a whiskey connoisseur. He does whiskey tastings all around the country, really. And whiskey, whatever industry that the person he's interviewing works in, he'll bring in whiskey pairings that could help them in their industry. And so if they're in real estate, then the episode's called Real Estate and Whiskey. If it's, nanotech, it's nanotech and whiskey, and he brings in, different. Anyways, right now we're working on an app, or web app that's tied to the And Whiskey site, where people, if they're at dinner, they can type in, what they're eating, and it'll give you some cool whiskey pairings based on how they're feeling, or, what type of night. Is it date night, or is it, business or corporate night, or anything like that. So we're just having fun with it, man. Now we are. My first thought was, how can I benefit our clients with this, and how can I make a little extra money? So we succeeded at that, and now we're just having fun. I like being able to create stuff and then show all our clients, so it gets their brain going, like, maybe we could do something like that. I'd love to see how this will work with our law firm clients, even from a customer acquisition perspective. Like, how can we hook them in further to the company once they land on their website? And we're experimenting with a lot, but it's awesome. Just the output alone.
Yeah. For the attorneys, have you messed with like communications with their clients, like new inbound leads, working through setting an appointment for them, stuff like that? Have you played with that at all?
Not in those aspects. We have helped out an attorney who does a lot of he does traffic tickets and stuff like that. So we've used it to help his firm determine the pricing structure, of which they can tell someone, hey, for this cost, we'll take care of your ticket. But depending on the contact form that someone sends in, they put what class type of ticket it is and all that, and it uses AI. We actually use the county courthouse's legal fee structure and put that in, so it spits out an appropriate price for the law firm to say, hey, for $350, we'll take care of your ticket. And it keeps that profitability for them. So if they do have to carry out the ticket, it is $350. But if they're able to get it dismissed, then the law firm makes money, all that stuff. So that's one way. But I will say, for that particular one, we do say in all of our stuff, this is a law firm guided AI experience. And I forget who was talking. I think it was Billy Jean is marketing. He was saying how he thinks, in a year there's going to be CEOs, right? There will be like CEHs, like chief executive humans, because the rest of the workforce is going to be AI led. And it makes sense, man. When you have a customer, say a customer chat support person, they can maybe go through 20, 30, 40 chats a day, and you have a tool that can do 7 million at the same time. It is going to eliminate some of those jobs, but as long as you have a human interacting with it and leading it, putting that mindset behind it, I don't think you can lose.
We've been experimenting with and having a lot of fun with the communication aspect. We talked earlier about checking in if people over the phone are AIs, because I've talked to some really good ones. In fact, some It's sad to say, but I get some cold calls that honestly the AI did way better than they did just because it listened to my responses and responded in kind. I had this guy call me the other day that was like, "Hey, did you get this in your inbox?" And I'm like, "No, I never did." And he goes, "Okay, well, do you want to go ahead and get that meeting set up?" And I'm like, "Until I receive the thing, probably not." And he goes, "Oh, okay. So when do you want to get that set up for? Like what time?" I'm like, "I don't think you're even listening, so I'm going to hang up now. Have a nice day." Where the AI would actually respond based off what I was saying.
Yeah.
But we work with medical and a lot of chiropractors.
Yep.
And part of what they need help with is inbound intake and setting appointments.
Yeah.
They usually have one or two office staff that are busy checking people in, maybe calling insurance companies. Like they've got a lot of tasks to do. And it doesn't really make sense for them to have, 8, 9, 10 staff. Right. So inbound leads from a Facebook ad or Google ads or whatever, we have it actually sending out text on their behalf, collecting information from the customer, the date of birth, the name, email address, any information we need there, and then can actually read real-time calendar availability and then set an appointment for them. So I don't promote it replacing the front desk. I think there should still be that human connection, but it can increase the amount of leverage they have. Again, leverage. They can spend more time talking to the people that are actually responding instead of trying to follow up with somebody from a Facebook ad that may or may not respond. Yeah. And so I think that's been quite helpful, those chiropractors that are using that. And we're looking for other ways to apply that and help in other areas of the business as well. But that one's been a project.
That's killer, man. I want to experiment with that a little on the automotive side, but it would take such a total shift of the way that things are built. So I'm taking strides towards that. I have a team in the Ukraine who's building out a back-end inventory system for me that will work with AI, because I would like to see a car shopping experience look like you come to a blank page and you start your shopping, right? There's a blank page. It's like, what am I looking for? I've got 6 kids, or I've got it's a family of 6. I've got 4 kids. Here's their ages. We're going back and forth to cheer practice, baseball, basketball. My garage is a 2-car garage. The heat here is crazy. The roads in Tulsa suck. So I need something that's got, good braking system or good, balancing, all that stuff. And then it provides you with like the perfect resource for you, looking at all the details from a car, all the specs, right? Or you can say, I hate when the front of the car isn't pointy, or I need to have more trunk space because we travel a lot. Like that shopping experience. I mean, if it starts from blank and it's like, what do you want? I think that's always what Google's been trying to accomplish, right? I always say Google's main goal is for you to have a thought and it gives you the answer, right? And it gives you the perfect answer. So why not shape? For you.
Because that's objective.
Right, exactly. The perfect answer for you. And again, they were way ahead of their time on Google Glass. I thought it was brilliant, but that would have accomplished a lot. But I would love to see that in the auto world and also in the RV world. Being able to talk, here's where I'd like to go camping, and what it could spit out, or maybe, here are the top, 6 units that we see for you, and here's some resources as to who sells them around you, and here's some pictures that we grabbed from the web of people, from Instagram, of them in those areas that you wanted to go camp in and were similar, and here's their setups. And just connecting all that together would be, dude, I would go to that way, and I think the closest is probably CarMax, how they have, so the availability, and Carvana was almost there. But to have that type of shopping experience, I think would be cool to build out. But you kind of have to deconstruct the way it works now, because it's like manufacturer handles the inventory, people are all in-house. They have to upload everything. So there's something there. We'll get there. But like you said, as long as you have that person who can hand you those keys and has that, that nice personality and makes the whole experience better. I think, who said it? J. Cole said they act like 2 legends cannot coexist. So people and AI, we're legends. We can coexist, I think.
You mentioned earlier about the way or Google's objective to provide the singular result. And I don't know if I imagine you have started playing with the, what do they call it? Iterative. What is that? They have a new beta search platform. What do they call that?
I don't know.
AI powered generative search.
Through their Bard platform?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's now in beta. You can sign up for this, and their objective is legitimately to provide like a singular search result. And I think that has a lot of people scared in our industry doing SEO because they're like, is it even going to be relevant anymore? And I have this huge argument that absolutely yes, it became infinitely more important to do your SEO now because of the way they're going to serve it up to people. Everybody's like, well, if they're only going to show one, then like I got to be the best of the best of the best. And I'm like, that's not technically true. They're serving up one result that fits that person,
right?
Which means could be an advantage to you. They're serving you up to your ideal customer because they're better understanding how to match you guys, which means you need to put in the work to tell Google who is that ideal customer. So you do show up for that.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, with AI and whatever, like, are you even going to do SEO the same way? And I'm like, yes, because from a platform aspect, they're still heavily reliant on the way websites are structured, HTML format that's in there, the schema code. Like, the information that is being provided to the AI is still being read the same way it has been. The infrastructure is built. To change that would take years and years and years, number one. And number two, why change it whenever it works so well already?
Yeah.
So it's not that the internet is changing, they're changing the way they're serving the end result to the end user. I think it made SEO way more important. What are your thoughts?
I totally agree, man. And I think we were the test subjects. I think when they brought, dynamic ads into the fold, I think that's what they were doing. They were improving search. The same with like performance max campaigns now. They're improving search by doing that because you're telling Google, you have permission to twist and turn my words however you like to show it to the perfect person, right? We ran for a record store here in town, and I ran a performance max campaign along with some dynamic, and me and my wife ran the same search, and the search was just sell my records in town. Where do I sell my records? Mine showed up and said, sell my hip hop and R&B sell your hip hop and R&B records. And my wife's was sell your folk or acoustic albums, so it's getting the person. And I think, that'll be the search result. I think, but and that leads me to like an underlying beef that I have with Google. I love them and I hate them. I love them because of, I'm able to get leads from them. I'm able to use their resources, but I hate it because, if you look at SEO, right? Let's say, for instance, I'm trying to rank for purple plants. Just say purple plant. I'm trying to rank for that. I write some content on it. I have a landing page. Google knows purple plant. It puts me up in the competition against other people selling purple plants or talking about purple plants, and I'm in that game. If I go to AdWords and I say I want to show up for purple plant, it's going to have me show up for everything purple and everything plant, unless I make it a exact match keyword. And even then, that's going to lower my possibility of reaching a broader audience. And if I do a broad match keyword, then I'm going to show up for everything purple plant related. So my beef is that AI knows the difference between SEO and ads, and it's not letting you get there on the ad side as easily. But I think you're right. I think that dynamic result approach is their end result, man. I'm looking, I don't know. Maybe it knows your diet. Maybe it knows, what you have going on tomorrow because you use your Google Calendar. It knows you got a big cardio day tomorrow. So when you ask it, where should I eat lunch? It's going to refer you somewhere that's low carb, maybe high in protein and fat. And that's your perfect answer right there. Right. And you don't have to think any further.
And that'd be an advantage, not a disadvantage. So anybody that's worried about that, I think you're you're going to do okay if you'll put your focus in the right place.
Yeah.
We got out into the weeds of the marketing stuff a little bit before we end here because we're coming up on time.
Yeah.
Again, the main theme of the podcast is around the fact that so many businesses fail. So, in kind of a rapid fire format, just give us some of the things you think have helped you go from kid in South Carolina to your weavy path to owning a tremendous agency that's doing some really cool stuff on cutting edge technology. How'd you get there? What if you could download it in the next 1 minute? What are the things we should focus on that's going to help us have a better business no matter what industry we're in?
I will say setting attainable goals so that you have those wins, you have those self wins. Those are very, very important. My goal was to be $1 million agency. We reached that 3 years ago, and we've been growing ever since. Reached that 4 years ago. And accountability. So I'd say setting attainable goals and having someone hold you accountable. The way I did it was there's a young guy fresh out of college who was interested in learning the agency world, wanted to learn how to build websites. I knew how to build them. So I basically said, listen, I can't pay you, but if you show up at my house at 9 a.m. every day, every weekday, I'll give you coffee, I'll give you breakfast, you can sit beside me and learn what I do. And that gave me a reason to get up at 8 every morning and come up with something for this guy to do. So this is the begin. This isn't going to be a minute. So scratch that. I'm going to get, I had him start coming in at 9. His name is David. This is my boy. He was really eager to learn. He didn't want to go and pursue a degree in anything. He wanted to start because he's so into coding. So I had him come over, and when he didn't know that I didn't have it. Like, he didn't know that I was up the night before praying that I got an email from somebody. Like, please, somebody email my business account. That could mean business. So what I did was, quite honestly, I made up projects for us. So every 2 weeks or so, we do a deal for a new law firm. A whole branding package, a whole web design, whole SEO. We do the same for a tire repair shop. We do it for a little boutique. And I started promoting our work. Say, hey, another happy customer, another happy client. Look what we were able to do for them. That got all the attention from all the other marketing shops, all the other agency shops, and then all the traditional shops who were like, hey, if you have bandwidth, I do have a customer who needs a site like you did here. And that's what really got the ball rolling for my agency was the accountability and not wanting to look like, we didn't have anything to do. So I also wanted to teach him. So I created these projects for us to work on, which in actuality, we still use a lot of those methods today, like the procedures and processes to work through all that. So it's kind of like, I guess, picturing it and being it before you are that worked for me. And I say attainable goals because I like to tell the story. I was part of a mastermind. All of us go to a mastermind at some point. We get some buddies together. We're like, we should have a mastermind. So I was part of a mastermind with 2 guys. We met every 4th or 5th Friday, I forget, at a coffee shop. And the way it worked was, each person had 30 minutes to talk about, successes, failures. And then during that time, the other 2 would have questions. And then you had another 30 minutes to do Q&A where they would challenge you with, challenging questions like, why'd you do it that way? Or why didn't you pursue this? And then we would conclude every mastermind with our goal for, between now and the next time we meet. So my goal every time we met, my goal between the next time, hey, I want to get 4 new clients. That was always my goal. I want 4 new clients, 4 good clients. There's another guy, his goal was always to make an extra $20,000 a month, right? He wasn't even making $20,000, but he was always like, I want to make $20,000. And then there's another guy who was a part of this group, and I'm still good friends with him to this day. His goal was always, he added $1 freaking dollar to how much he wanted to make more from his website. He's like, I want my website to generate $1 more from the content I'm creating. That's it. And I'm like, dude, that's the dumbest thing. Like, come on, man. I'm trying to get 4 new clients. He's trying to make 20,000. You're trying to make $1 new dollar. He hit his goal every time. And I didn't hit my goal, maybe 30% of the time. The $20,000 guy, he never hit his goal, right? The guy who hit those goals now, He does all of the marketing for John Maxwell, for your biggest name. I mean, he's PJing here and there, and he's like, I mean, he's solid. But he got there because he's very, very reasonable with himself and what he could do, and he's still that to this day. He won't, he won't put himself in. I would not say compromising position, but he won't put himself in places where he feels he might be overexerted or taken advantage of. And he says no a lot. He says no more often than he says yes. And I always looked at that, even from 10 years ago, like, man, he was real with himself and was able to go after that thing. And that slow growth was better than that fast pace. So those are my two. That's my minute talk on those things you can't miss. I wouldn't be where I am without it at all. I wouldn't have gotten the deals with the other agencies who used me as their CMO if I hadn't created these fake companies to do the work for. If I hadn't had David come in at 9, if I hadn't seen Joseph, or I don't say his name, if I hadn't seen him reach all of his goals at every mastermind, I wouldn't be here for sure.
Some things I want to dissect out of what you said, and I think this is common amongst everybody I've interviewed so far, or other highly successful people, is that you've been very intentional with your time and your energies, like even down to the fact that you were making up these projects for you guys to work on. That wasn't a fruitless effort. Number one, you're sharpening your skill set. Number two, you now have a product you can show to people, especially in the digital space. There's so much of an intangibility that can be there. It makes it harder to sell that to somebody. So showing them those things are helpful. This understanding around being smart with your goals. Every entrepreneur that's been successful that I've had the opportunity to talk to spends a lot of time setting goals for themselves. They always have some next goal, but setting them in a way that every time you can succeed. I love that guy's concept. Maybe $1 was a little bit too mild. I don't know, but it built a confidence in him of consistently holding himself accountable versus, if I said every day to myself, I'm going to lose 30 pounds by tomorrow, it's impossible. Yeah. I'm setting myself up for failure, and I get used to not meeting that goal. And so I no longer keep myself accountable. Yep. Versus setting a goal that you can actually reach. Doesn't mean you don't have longer term vision and a longer term projection to something bigger, but by accumulating those wins, it invests you in continuing to be true to yourself. Don't lie to yourself. You're not going to lose 30 pounds tomorrow. But we could lose 2 pounds by the end of the week. Yep. Based off making choices and decisions in our meals or the exercise that I do. Those are obtainable. And now when I hit that, I'm that much more encouraged to do the same thing the next week. And that's where the consistency aspect came in for this guy. He consistently was building and growing.
It was so annoying. It was so annoying, but he did it, man. I want to say too, man, in doing that and setting those goals and all that, there has to come a time where you really have to disconnect from whatever's happening around you, socially, family dynamic, anything like that. I think that there has to be a disconnect in order to make this crazy entrepreneur thing work, man. My disconnect came in the form of, I'm shedding my social media feeds of anything that's not marketing related. I'm taking all these entertainment apps off my phone. Recently I just took TikTok off. Like if I spend 2 nights on it, it's a hindrance. So you got to take it off, right? Right now our social media, we have a girl named Laura who runs our social media. I don't touch it, right? But that disconnect has to happen. You're going to look crazy to a lot of people who won't understand it. But for sure, 9-10 years later, like me, you'll be getting calls. Like, hey, can you help me learn this? Can you help? Nope, I can't. We're focusing on moving forward, right? So there's that, you'll slowly become that person that you thought wasn't a peer because you thought they were so ahead of you, right? But they felt a little bit ahead of you because they're more settled in their positioning. But yeah, there had to be a lot of sacrifice. There were a lot of late bills, bills being paid late. There were the car repossessed. There was, moving from here to here. There's a lot of sacrifice. But once you hit that stride, and like you say, you start hitting those little goals and get those little wins here and there, it keeps you going. It's like that, I wouldn't, proverbial carrot on the stick, but it keeps you going for sure. But I just want to stress that, like, you can't retain the life that you have now if you want your business or whatever you're trying to grow to succeed. Some things have to shift. And the people who don't get it, they can still be friends and colleagues, but you don't have to spend every waking moment proving anything to them. You just have to make that dollar more every month.
And what I'll extract out of that is again, being conscientious with your time and your energy and the people you're surrounding yourself with.
Yep.
You mentioned having a mastermind. I'm in a couple right now. I'm always trying to surround myself with people that will challenge my ideas, it's iron sharpening iron, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How do we help each other by challenging each other, by holding each other accountable? Well, shoot, man, we're already an hour and a half in. You were worried we wouldn't have enough to talk about, but I think we did just fine. And as I typically have, we'll probably have to have you on again
We'd love
in a while.
We'd love
where
to.
You're at. Any additional resources or things you would point to people real quick before we leave here? Books, podcasts.
Yeah, I would say read this book, The Win Without Pitching Manifesto, by Blair Enns. There's also a book called Built to Sell. And that book is written by who? I forget his name. But it's a great book. Question. It's written, Built to Sell, Creating a Business That Can Thrive Without You by John Warrillow. I'm not a book recommender. I know like 5 books, but that book, Built to Sell, and A Win Without Pitching Manifesto, I would definitely dive into those. I think Built to Sell sets you up to figure out how you want to structure your business. Even now, with the Montgomery Group, we're looking at what portions of the business we can build up and sell off to then get an influx of cash to, help others. So those two, and then, clean up your feeds and only have stuff that's important to you in there. Because, as you mark, I like to look at, getting new clients. You're entering a new world every time. So, you can't learn everything, but I would scrape your feed and only know the important stuff for your company.
Right on. It sounds like you do some mentorship and giving back yourself.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody listens to this and was interested in getting in contact with you, would you, number one, be open to it? Number two, what would be the best way to approach you?
Yep, 1,000%. Q4 is usually open for us. So, I'm willing to have, 30-minute, hour chat with anybody. I won't charge you. You can hit me up at Dominick, DOMINICK _TMG. That's Tango, Mango, Gango, TMG. Or you can just go to the montgomerygroup.us and fill out the form, and I'll probably get it that way too.
Okay, right on. Well, I appreciate you being on. Again, we'll have to have you back and see what kind of cool things you did.
This is awesome.
But awesome. Well, I will catch you on the next one. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll see you next time.
See you guys.